Let me take you somewhere familiar. Picture this. You are standing in a car showroom in Malaysia. The air is cool, the floor is polished, and in front of you is a sleek electric car. It looks modern. It looks expensive. But then you see the price, and it is much lower than you expected. Lower than what your neighbor paid for a Japanese sedan just a few years ago. Later that same day, you walk into a shopping mall. You see a coffee shop you do not remember growing up with. The brand sounds Chinese. The cups look stylish. The queue is long. And the price of a drink is so cheap, it almost feels like a promotion. Except it is not a promotion. That is the real price. At night, you lie in bed, scrolling on your phone. You see clothes, gadgets, toys, and even groceries being sold online at prices that feel unreal. Everything is fast. Everything is cheap. Everything looks easy. At first, it feels like progress, like the world is finally working for consumers. But here is the uncomfortable truth. When prices fall this fast, across so many industries at the same time, it is not just competition. It is a sign of something much bigger, something structural, something that changes who wins and who quietly disappears. Malaysia is now inside a global price war, and this price war is being driven by one force more than any other: China's massive oversupply. For years, China invested aggressively in factories, automation, robotics, battery plants, logistics, and advanced manufacturing. It built the capacity to produce far more than its own population could ever consume. When China's domestic economy slowed, after COVID, after the property crisis, after weakening consumer confidence, those factories did not simply shut down. Machines do not care about GDP. Workers still show up. Loans still need to be paid. Production keeps going. So when a country produces too much, it has only one way out. It must export the excess. And when it exports that excess, it does not do so gently. It does it with price, with speed, with volume, with pressure. That is what Malaysia is experiencing now. Chinese electric vehicles, Chinese coffee chains, Chinese fashion brands, Chinese smartphones, Chinese online shopping platforms, all entering the market at prices local businesses struggle to match without bleeding. Nowhere is this more obvious than in cars. Just a few years ago, Malaysia introduced tax exemptions for imported electric vehicles to encourage EV adoption. The goal was good: cleaner transport, more choices, and attracting investment. But the side effect was powerful. It opened the door for Chinese EV makers, who were already facing brutal competition at home, to pour into Southeast Asia. Within a short time, brands like BYD, Zeekr, and Chery became serious players. They came in fast. They launched many models. They priced aggressively. And they changed what Malaysians thought a car should cost. Now look at what happened to traditional players. Nissan, once a strong brand in Malaysia, saw its market share fall to less than 1%. A decade ago, it was around 7%. Mazda saw its profits collapse by more than 70% in a single year. A major local automotive group is now even considering selling its assembly plant because the economics no longer make sense. This is not because Malaysians suddenly hate Japanese cars. It is because price changes behavior. When a Chinese EV is tens of thousands of ringgit cheaper, monthly installments decide. Consumers follow affordability. Dealers feel the pressure. Service centers see fewer cars. Parts suppliers get fewer orders. And investors start to worry. And this is not just Malaysia. In Thailand, car sales fell around 25%. In Indonesia, sales dropped more than 10%. Economists talk about debt and weak purchasing power, but carmakers themselves point to one thing: the Chinese price war. Malaysia looked strong for a while because of EV incentives and a backlog of orders. But those incentives are ending. Imported EVs will no longer be duty-free. Excise duties will return. Prices will rise. And when prices rise in a market that has already reset its expectations, someone gets squeezed. But cars are only the first wave, because China is no longer just exporting parts and components. It is exporting brands. In food and beverage, Chinese chains like Mixu, Luckin Coffee, Cheiji, and Lucky Cup are reshaping price benchmarks. They sell drinks at levels many local cafés cannot survive on. They operate at massive scale, controlling supply chains and production. A small cafe must pay rent, wages, utilities, and ingredients for every outlet. A large chain spreads those costs across thousands of stores. The result is simple and brutal. The small player loses. In fashion, brands like Shane, Anta, and Li-Ning dominate with ultra-fast production cycles and global logistics. In electronics, Huawei, Xiaomi, Vivo, and Oppo keep pushing prices down while offering more features. In e-commerce, TikTok Shop and Taobao pull customers away from existing platforms. Even supermarkets are beginning to feel pressure from China-linked retail concepts expanding in Malaysia. For consumers, this feels wonderful. More choice, lower prices, faster access to new products. But cheap prices always come with a hidden cost. That cost is paid by businesses. Local SMEs cannot survive on razor-thin margins. They stop expanding. They stop hiring. They delay investment. They cut training. Over time, jobs disappear quietly. Not with a big crash, but with slow, invisible erosion. History matters here. When Japanese companies entered Malaysia decades ago, they built factories, trained workers, and developed local suppliers. They created ecosystems. China's model today is different. It is faster, it is larger, and it relies heavily on price as a weapon. Electric vehicles show this clearly. EV assembly is highly automated. Batteries, power electronics, and software are imported. The highest value components stay overseas. Local SMEs struggle to meet the technical and capital requirements. So much of the value stays in China. This is why economists warn that price competition alone is not development. Without a roadmap to integrate Malaysian firms into EVs, batteries, and new economy supply chains, short-term consumer gains could come at the expense of long-term industrial strength. And now, this hits closer to home. Because when margins fall, wages grow slower. When businesses become uncertain, promotions slow. Hiring freezes become common, and job security weakens. The consumer feels the benefit first. The business owner feels the pain first. The worker feels the impact last. That delay is dangerous, because by the time people worry about jobs, the damage has already been done in the background. So here is the real question. Do we want Malaysia to just enjoy cheap imports? Or do we want Malaysia to build the ability to compete? Because China's price war is not temporary. It is structural. It is reshaping what we buy, where we work, and how companies survive. The question is not whether it will stop. The question is whether Malaysia will adapt fast enough to benefit without losing its own economic foundation. Now let us go deeper, because the real story is not just about brands and prices. It is about behavior, investment, and the structure of the Malaysian economy. One of the most important lines in the article is easy to miss. It says that many local businesses are now taking a wait-and-see approach when it comes to expanding or setting up new manufacturing plants. That sounds harmless. But in economics, when businesses stop investing, it is a warning sign. Investment is the engine of job creation. When a company builds a new factory, opens a new outlet, or expands production, it hires people. It buys equipment. It pays suppliers. It creates economic momentum. But when margins are under pressure and prices are unstable, businesses become cautious. They delay projects. They freeze hiring. They conserve cash. And that is exactly what a price war does. When Chinese brands enter the market with ultra-low prices, local companies suddenly lose their ability to predict the future. They do not know how long the price pressure will last. They do not know whether they can raise prices. They do not know whether their competitors will survive. So instead of investing, they wait. This is how a price war quietly turns into an investment freeze. The article also highlights another uncomfortable reality. Even though Malaysia wants to be part of the EV revolution, the opportunities for local SMEs are uneven. Electric vehicles are not like traditional cars. They are more automated. They rely heavily on batteries, power electronics, and software, most of which are imported. In the old automotive world, thousands of small Malaysian companies supplied parts, components, and services to car makers. In the EV world, the supply chain is more concentrated and more capital-intensive. That means fewer local vendors qualify, and those that do often need large investments just to meet technical standards. So even when EV sales grow, local participation does not automatically grow with them. This is what economists mean when they warn about a hollowing out of domestic industries. The showroom may be full, the consumer may be happy, but behind the scenes, fewer Malaysian companies are involved in making, maintaining, or upgrading those vehicles. Now apply this same logic to food, retail, and technology. When a Chinese F&B chain enters Malaysia, it does not just bring a new drink, it brings a new operating model. Central kitchens, bulk purchasing, data-driven marketing, aggressive site selection, and often very thin margins designed to win market share. Local operators, especially family-run businesses, cannot easily match that. They do not have the scale. They do not have the capital. They do not have the data. So they face three choices. They either try to compete on price and slowly bleed, or they try to move up market and hope customers will pay more, or they exit. None of these are easy. This is why the article says that the consumer gains are immediate, but the business and employment effects lag. The cafe does not close on the first month. The factory does not shut down immediately. But over time, fewer new outlets open. Fewer machines are bought. Fewer people are hired. And slowly, the job market tightens. Now, here is the most important thing to understand about price wars. They do not feel like a crisis at the beginning. They feel like a sale. Everything is cheap. Everyone is happy. But beneath that, capital is being reallocated. Weaker players are being squeezed. Stronger players are gaining ground. China can survive on thin margins because it has scale and financial backing. Many Malaysian SMEs cannot. So the pressure accumulates. This is also why policymakers are nervous, because Malaysia has spent decades trying to build local industrial capacity, from electronics to automotive to consumer goods. That capacity supports middle-class jobs, technical skills, and long-term economic stability. If price wars wipe out those companies before they can upgrade, the country may become more dependent on imports, even as consumers enjoy cheaper goods. That is not a healthy long-term trade-off. And this is why the article makes a powerful point when it says, price competition alone is not a development strategy. Development is not just about consuming cheaper products. It is about building the ability to produce, to innovate, and to compete. Now let me bring this back to you. If you are an employee, this price war affects your wage growth, your promotion prospects, and your job security. If you are an entrepreneur, it affects your margins, your expansion plans, and your survival. If you are an investor, it affects which companies will thrive and which will struggle. If you are a policymaker, it affects how you balance consumer benefits with industrial resilience. China's price war is not something happening out there. It is already inside Malaysia, shaping decisions, changing behavior, and quietly redrawing the future of the economy. And the most dangerous thing about it is not the low prices. It is the illusion that low prices mean everything is fine.